This time, we set out to find fall colors. We'd hoped we'd find some north of Lee Vining up the 395 corridor, and boy, Kavanaugh Ridge, the mountain range up there, did not disappoint. Great stands, groves of aspen, bright gold, yellow, oranges popping through, usually up around 8,000, 9,000 feet at this time of year, very beginning of October. Absolutely fantastic trip. Did get a little chilly overnight, but it helped pop the colors. We are convinced of it. So, fantastic trip this year. We were hoping to get out and find more fall colors, and nature did not disappoint. This trip started off like so many others. Early morning here in the greater LA area, driving north up the 395. Although on this trip, three of us, Raul, Dom, and myself and my wife, ended up meeting Carlton, who was already up in the Mammoth Lakes area. So as we crawled into Bishop, we started texting back and forth. We got caught up on all of the last of the supplies we thought we might need. And then we took off a little further, ended up meeting Carlton across from the Mammoth Lakes Airport, which is a very, very cool spot, and then decided time to hit some trails. And crawled up into the mountains a little while. All of the trails are pretty passable. They're pretty straightforward. There's no real trees blocking anything. But as you start climbing up, you see things like this, remnants of recent fires, probably last year, maybe the year before, that we're seeing here, coming into big stands of pines. It's very easy to see where the fire just raced down this hill and consumed a portion of these trees in a very, very tight area. And as you see when we come through this area, you'll notice that the edge of the fire stopped at a very particular point. And then some of these pine trees in front of us only have the lower portion burnt off, and just a couple 100 feet past that, all of the pine trees are fine. Gives you a real sense of direction and how the fire was consuming specific areas. Just incredible. And of course, as we go up here, we're gaining altitude. These aren't quite the fall colors we're looking for, but we're not far from hitting them. And most of this day, we were a little bit nervous on Friday that we were too early. That's what we thought was happening, is we were too early and we weren't really going to see the fall colors. And it turned out that wasn't the case at all. We got our fair share. And it was just a matter of continuing on a little farther to see what nature had in store for us. Our first overnight was at Horse Meadow. You saw earlier, we got there, we had a great meal. You know, Carlton did up some mango sticky rice and steak for himself with a Japanese barbecue sauce. The rest of us had blue cheese burgers with fresh veggies, portobellos, peppers. Fantastic night. Beautiful show from the stars. We saw meteors. We saw all kinds of stuff floating around in the night sky. Just a great night around the propane campfire, and really enjoyed it. Super quiet out in the woods. And of course, the next morning, we did the time-honored tradition of campers everywhere, which is the lazy start. So Dom got out the pancakes. We made these up. We did sausage, we did bacon, we did hash browns, we had fresh fruit, we had fresh coffee. It was absolutely the way to start our Saturday. And little did we know, we were going to start this off. And within actually 1 minute of leaving our camp later that day, we'd face the trickiest challenge of the entire trip from a driving perspective. Not a hard challenge, but hard enough to get our attention.
No, this is going to be the main video. This is going to be complete.
You got this. You got this. Maybe you don't got this.
Is it there?
Well, I can tell you that this is definitely making the video.
There it is.
As I mentioned earlier, just after leaving camp for the day on Saturday, we came across a fairly steep hill here. It wasn't anything that wasn't safe to attempt, but it's very clear there's been water runoff across this. It's cut deep ditches across the road surface. People have driven through, so there's some pretty deep ruts to go through. We had a variety of vehicles on this trip. We had a stock 4Runner. We had a moderately lifted Land Cruiser, which you see here, Dom, coming down. Raul's Land Cruiser was a little more built up, and then my Rubicon as well. It wasn't a significant challenge for anybody, but you'll see here in Dom's truck a couple of times he'll lift a wheel here and there, and he'll just kind of glide. But all the drivers got out early, took a walk down the hill, picked their lines. We knew what markers to look for, how to kind of position things, put ourselves in 4-low and let the vehicles do the work, just crawling down the hill. We did have some fun with the cameras. We got a few different views for Dom and for me. And then that was the biggest challenge of our day. It was just a great time, a bit surprising first thing after leaving camp, but it definitely woke us up and got us focused for the day. But in the end, it was just some good fun. This is why we're out here. We love encountering these things and conquering them. next day was obviously just transit, but we came through Lee Vining. We stopped for gas. It was pretty expensive there, $7.99 at one station, $8.29 across the street at another. And then we just kept going up the 395, up past Mono Lake, went up over the grade, and then headed up into an area where we stopped for a little while at the Virginia Lakes, and Big Valley Lake in particular. absolutely beautiful at this location. There were folks out fishing on the shoreline. There's a canoe there if you want to go out in the water. It's an actual park, so there's vault toilets there. There's hiking nearby. It's a fantastic area, as you'll see here in these photos. Just beautiful. saw, the day did not disappoint when it came to fall colors. Big props to Dom and Raoul and Carlton for scouting and planning this route for us. It was exactly what we had hoped for this year for our fall colors run. We spent the day poking around up in the Kavanaugh Ridge area, up around 9,000, 9,500 feet at times. Ended up coming back down just a little under 9,000 feet to make camp for the night. Found a beautiful open area protected by some trees. The wind died off perfectly at sunset. We had an amazing light show from the stars and the Milky Way overnight. It was fabulous. I made a wise crack about getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and wouldn't you know it, I woke up at 4:30 the next morning. So while I was up, took a whole bunch more starscape photos and just enjoyed the night sky. I did wake up to 27 degrees, rather chilly up in the mountains, and that caught our attention, but hey, that's what happens when you're camping out in the wilderness, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. We had a great group of folks, great trip, great fall colors, just prime locations, very quiet. Highly recommend these areas. Folks can get in there if you have even a small SUV. We saw folks up in there. So completely accessible areas for pretty much everyone. Part of what attracted us to this particular camp spot for night number 2 was this massive grove of alders in the background behind our camp. And we suspected that in the morning when the sun came up, we'd have this beautiful view during the so-called golden hour when the sun's coming in at an angle. And you can see in the trees here, this line of shadow is the mountain range behind us, casting a shadow as the sun rises and it hits the trees beautifully. So we were super happy. We spent, at least a half an hour up here snapping photos and taking video and just enjoying the silence of the morning at this location and how beautiful it was. So this alone would have made our trip worthwhile coming up here, but the larger area that we were in just did not stop with the riot of colors. It was fantastic. So again, this year, we managed another awesome trip and just the right timing on it. Last year's fall color run was fantastic. We really weren't sure we'd be able to hit it again this year, and we nailed it. Super, super fortunate. Cannot wait to go back and explore more of these beautiful areas.